Namaskaram to everyone. Thank you for joining me on another episode of the official Mridangam podcast. I really appreciate it. As many of you might notice, this week's episode is a little bit different from my usual episode in that it is a video episode, and I will be mixing these video episodes in periodically throughout the show whenever I feel it is necessary based on the material that I'm planning to cover in that episode. So be on the lookout for that. But the majority of the show will be audio still. So with that, I would like to get started with today's topic, which I felt would be much better done on a video setting than with audio. So the topic that I wanted to cover today is variations on 5. Variations of Tati Kittadom, the classic Tati Kittadom that comes into play in so many of our korves and patterns. So, for example, Tati Kittadom, Tati Kittadom, Tati Kittadom Tam. Probably, arguably, the simplest utrangam, or the second part of the korva, the simplest utrangam there is out there. But instead of just having that simple rhythmic pattern, many variations can be played that have the same mathematical measure as 5, but are just played with different fingerings. So that's what I would like to cover today. And so grab my mridangam because I want to play this for you today. Okay, so the first, obviously, the Tati Kittadom is the simplest, no variation, nothing like that. And this is since each is 5 and you're playing it 3 times, it turns out to be a 15 point phrase. 15 points. So therefore, obviously this can be played in any talam. But I'm just to make things simple when we're learning this, I'm just gonna do it in aditalam like this. Tati kittatam, tati kittatam, tati kittatam tam. So 1 point tali after half avdanam at the first tattu. So the first most basic variation is, instead of tati kittatam, it's tati tatirigum. So that's the most basic variation. So instead of so that's the first variation. The second variation is so kedatakatakatarigum is how you say that. And I'm just gonna slow down and really focus on the mechanics of how this is played. So you start with the left. So once you've mastered the mechanics of that, this is what that sounds like. And I'm obviously not a master at this instrument, nowhere near it. So, of course, you want to hear that. It's called the chapu. You want to hear that in the individual stroke. It's very important. Requires a lot of practice. And it's also, you don't want to get mixed up with the 2 strokes on the left side of the mridangam. You start with that da, then you end with the dom. So I've covered 1 of the variations of the korve, or of the 5 pattern that appears in the korves. The next variation for 5 is as follows. Tarikita kita de minaka. Tarikita kita de minaka. So if you play that 3 times, it sounds like this. So again, tarikita kita de minaka. Tarikita kita de minaka. That's what the next variation of 5 is. So on to the next variation of 5 is as follows. Remember, all these variations have the exact same measure as 5. You just substitute it in to make things more interesting. So, takadika tati kita dom. So, takadika tati kita dom. So the takadika, it's actually 4, but if you play it in double speed, which is what we're doing, it's 2. And then the, as you all probably know, that's 6. Is 6. So, and once again, if played in double speed, it's only half as long, so 3. So then 2 plus 3 is 5, and that's our stroke. So that's that variation. The next variation is, and that's okay. And the next variation is so when played 3 times, sounds like this. So nam tari or many different schools say it in different ways, but the way our school says it, nam tari like that. So it's all with the dom. There's no ta. And I would recommend practicing this very slowly over and over like this. At whatever tempo you're comfortable with, and gradually working it up until you can play it like, or whatever your needs require as a, when it comes down to which curva and what speed you're playing the curva at. Next is another variation. This one is a little bit more challenging, but here it is. So this is basically, I like to split it into 2 parts. So takita dom. So I play it ta, ta, and then the taki, ta, dom. Takita dom, the first part, and then. So if you break it up into 2 parts, it's a little bit more manageable. At least I feel it is. So. And then eventually you work it up to that speed. So again, I recommend practicing this at a slow tempo at whatever speed you're comfortable with, and then gradually working it up until you can get it fast. The final variation, you guys were hoping I would never say that, right? The final variation is as follows. So basically it's, and then so you want to keep playing that over and over and over at the speed you're comfortable with. And then keep on building it up until you can play it like at the speed that your code red requires. So those are a few variations in 5 that they get to them. And don't think that when you're playing these you have to play if you want to play one variation of 5, you have to play that one variation of 5. That's not true. You can mix and match. There's nothing wrong with that. So, like, for example, I could do... In my opinion, that sounds better than just doing... But that again, since this is music, it's up to your personal opinion. Whatever aesthetics you find to suit you, you should use. So that's a personal choice. I can't tell you what to do with that. So you can definitely mix and match these varieties when you're playing 3 tatikirtadoms or however many tatikirtadoms your korva consists of. So feel free to comment, ask questions, leave some feedback. I always want to improve my show, so thanks for listening today, and good luck with your mridangam.